Starting off with the worst evolution in the game, we got the Evolv Ice Spirit. I think a lot of people would agree with this. The regular Ice Spirit is very good, don't get me wrong, but I think the reason why the Evolv Ice Spirit is really bad is unlike other evolutions that oftentimes get a stat boost, the Evolv Ice Spirit has the same amount of health and does the same amount of damage. Sometimes that refreeze effect can be pretty cool, but the issue is because things like logs still take it out, oftentimes it dies, or if it locks on the wrong target, then the ability just oftentimes goes to complete waste. The second worst evolution, in my opinion, is the Evolv Valkyrie, which I'm putting right in front of the Evolv Ice Spirit in F tier. It'll be actually the last F tier evolution. It's similar to the Evolv Ice Spirit in the sense that it doesn't have any stat increase. It has the same health and deals the same damage. So the problem with that is it's not guaranteed value, because oftentimes you can just go for an air counter or something to counter the Evolv Valkyrie before she even gets a chance to swing her axe frequently and use the tornado a lot. Even though the tornado can be nice on defense sometimes, it's just not really guaranteed because there's no stat increase. For the third worst evolution, I'm going to go with the Evolv Royal Giant. Now, sometimes that 10% health boost can be nice. It allows the Evolv Royal Giant to get an extra shot or two that the regular one otherwise wouldn't, but that's pretty much the main benefit of the evolution. The other ability, the fact that it damages things that are right next to him every time he shoots, doesn't really help it that much because people have kind of learned how to adapt to that, and now people just are smart and don't place swarmies next to him. And if the other person has something like an Inferno Tower or Bomb Tower, the Evolv RG, there's not really much of a difference compared to the regular one. Now, I know the Evolv Firecracker is very annoying and hard to deal with, and mid-ladder players hate her, but compared to the other evolution, she's kind of on the weaker end. I put her in C tier, because things like Fireball, Poison are going to take her out, and those spells are very prevalent in the meta. On top of that, you can get King Tower activations off of her, and she's not the most versatile evolution. When you think about it, you pretty much can only use her inside of Hog decks, which is only one deck, so she's not that versatile, and I actually think that's the main thing holding her back from being ranked higher. Now, the Evolved Bats, I'm going to put in B tier. I truly think they're an average evolution right now. I actually think they're quite underrated because a lot of casual players think they suck, but if you pair them in the right deck, say in a minor deck or a Mega Knight deck, they can be very valuable, especially if your opponent doesn't have the right spell. For example, if your opponent doesn't have arrows, they're pretty much going to be getting value every single time, especially since their hit rate, their first attack is faster now, meaning they're more likely to heal, and you have to react really fast now to kill them, and even when you react quickly, if you don't have the right cycle, they can be such a nuisance to deal with. The Evolv Barbs are going to go right above them in B tier. The fact that they don't die to Fireball makes them extremely valuable, which is why you see them in Fireball bait decks sometimes. They're incredible inside of beatdown decks. The defensive potential they have is absolutely insane, and even though they had their damage and health nerfed, they are so tough to break through, especially if you're using a heavy spell like a lightning or a rocket. It just gets absolutely no value against them. Now, I got one more I'm putting in B tier, going at the top of B tier, and that is the Evolv Mortar. And one of the biggest reasons why is its versatility, especially that there's two evolutions now in the game. You can pair so many Evos with the Evolv Mortar. You could use the Evolv Bats with it. You could use even the Firecracker with it if you wanted to. The Archers, the Evo Skeletons, the Evo Knight. You can pair so many Evos with it, and of course, it is insanely valuable on defense. So on itself, by itself, it might not be absolutely broken, but it's the versatility that really brings it up, which is an important aspect that goes into the rating. The Evolv Archers are going to be our first A tier, so kind of like the Evolv Firecracker, the reason why they're so annoying is because they don't die to arrows. But unlike the Evolv Firecracker, you don't have to worry about a King activation, which is why they are way more versatile than the Evolv Firecracker, because the Evolv Archers, you commonly see them in Giant Graveyard, because like I said, don't gotta worry about a King activation. You can split them, just tons of ways to get value, and when they're far away, the amount of DPS they do is just absolutely absurd. Alright, the fifth best evolution, in my opinion, is the Evolved Royal Recruits. Now, the thing that makes these the most annoying, I feel like, isn't even the health or damage boost, it's more so the fact that they're charging. And if your opponent goes for Recruit's first play of the game in single elixir, oftentimes they're able to get the Evolve Royal Recruits down, and then in single elixir, you have to deal with Evolved Royal Recruits. Some people compare them to princes charging in, and if you're low on elixir, you're pretty much screwed. So they're just very oppressive in so many situations. Going into A tier also, right above the Evolve Royal Recruits, we are gonna have the Evolve Skeletons. Now, one of the biggest reasons why is because of their versatility. You can play them in pretty much every cycle deck in the game, whether it's Hog, Royal Hog cycle, Miner cycle, pretty much every cycle deck you can use them if you want. And ever since they got that buff, the first hit buff, they multiply like crazy, and they are just obnoxious to deal with. If you don't have a small spell, forget it. You are pretty much screwed against them. We now enter our top 3, and all of these are in S tier. Coming in with the third best evolution in the game are the newly added Evolv Wall Breakers. The reason why these are so broken is you simply cannot get a positive elixir trade against them. They deal so much damage, and if you play swarms into them, they are just gonna die. The only solution is a building, but not every deck has a building. And funny enough, even if you have a Tombstone, Tombstone doesn't even counter them. One of them hits the Tombstone, the other one runs to the tower. So there's just no way to get a positive elixir trade against them. And if you don't have a building, like I said, they're pretty much unstoppable. I believe the Evolve Knight is slightly better than the Evolve Wall Breakers because of how versatile he is. Kind of like the Evolve Skeletons, you pretty much can use him in any cycle deck you want, but you can also use him in beatdown decks. You commonly see him inside of Golem and even Electro Giant, Goblin Giant. You pretty much can run him in any deck in the game, and it's no surprise why. The health boost he has is insanity. When he is walking, he is pretty much unkillable. He just has so much health, it is ridiculous. And then also the hit rate is faster. There's just so many things about him that are absolutely busted. And now, the best evolution in the game is the Evolv Bomber right now. So many pros think this card needs an emergency nerf, and it's no surprise why. It is only 2 elixir. It is basically a magic archer that you can play at the bridge, and it just gets so much damage. It doesn't even matter that arrows kill it. The fact that it's 1 cycle is what makes it so strong. I don't know what they were thinking making it 1 cycle, and then paired with the tornado, the amount of combinations you can do with it are just ridiculous, especially now that there's 2 evolutions in the game. You can pair this thing with the Evolve Knight, the Evolve Wall Breakers, the Evolve Skeletons, and just, it is ridiculously obnoxious. So broken. Well, that's my evolution tier list. Let me know what you guys agree and disagree with, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.